awaits me from my winter hell. I've got candles and candy, I can be your daddy if you only let me creep into your prison cell. Hey baby, can you tell I'm not a criminal? Your choice is seminal. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say, just find your way and try to stay true. Just speak low, stand in your row, try not to show this life's a show. Try not to glow. Way down below, it's a lot of woe. And that's not a place where you would like to go. I've got cigarettes and brandy, which could come in handy if you just help me loosen up my hand grenades fuse. Baby, don't refuse my truth, but it's up to you not to choose. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say, just find your way and try to stay true. I want you to stay true to what's right for you. No matter who or know what will others say, just find your way and try to stay true, 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 true.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? I've missed all of you guys. Let me say hi really quickly. Hey, Petunia. Good to see you. Hey, Mrs. Troy. Good to see you too. Neat. Hello. Good to see you. Hey, Violet. Hey, everyone. Oh, how I've missed you all. We have missed you too, Violet. Hey, Nay, my boo. How are you? Crocheting Bammy. Good to see you. It's about time. Good to see you. Hi. How is everyone? I hope you guys are doing well. I'm sorry that I haven't been live. But it's not been for nothing. I have been working, but I've also been spending quite a bit of time with my little chicky nuggy pup. Hi, Esquire. We've been swimming. And let me just say this. I feel old now. I didn't feel old before, but I feel old now because that sun, it takes it out of you. Like I'm done at the end of the day. So yeah, in the mornings I've been working on content for the second page, and then swimming, and then I'm like donezo. So I guess not really for the second page. It should be for the second channel. I don't even remember what I said. So but the reason I haven't posted any of the content to the second channel is because I want to have it all done so that I can schedule when it goes live. Because let's be honest, you guys are familiar with my brand. You know how I do. It takes me 7 years to make a video. And it's not because I'm slow at editing. I'm actually really quick at it, but it's I like to have it just right. And I know that, like Allie's always telling me, just put it out for the love of Pete. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it is. I I cannot. I've tried it. I cannot make myself do it. I just can't. So that's all I can say. It's too much. It's just the way my brain works. It's the OCD of it all. It really is. Crocheting Bammy. And the thing of it is, like, I I just can't. I can't put it out until I feel that it's right. So anyway, but it will be out that way. It can all be out at one time. Like it'll all be done, but then, you know, it can be scheduled. So once a week. The first thing I'm starting with is the West Memphis 3 because I've decided to do it a little differently and all the things. So I hope you guys like it. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys last night, after I was over at Melissa Jade's, she and Shay Benet went over the plea deal with Bryan Kohberger, all the things, and they did a fantastic job. So I watched that, and then I went over and I watched the interview, which, let me just say this, Bryan Kohberger, you are very dark. Let me say that right away. But I think that Lori is going to rate you like extra dark because you tried to steal her thunder, copping to a plea deal when her big interview with Nate Eaton was coming out. Rude and disrespectful. That's from Lori. I don't care that you took a plea deal. Like, that doesn't, on that day. I do have feelings about the plea deal, but it doesn't matter. Like, to me, I don't think you try. I know Lori's going to take it personal because that's the kind of person she is. All right. So I will be reviewing that tonight. Okay. Look out for that. I'm about to schedule it as soon as this one's over. All right. So let's talk about this plea deal. So yesterday I was scrolling the tubes and I saw Recovery Addict, who I like very, very much. I very much enjoy his channel, was live, and the title was Plea Deal, and there was no question mark. And I was like, whoa, what's the deal? So I was listening to him, reading his chat, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just take a gander over at Twitter. At the X Twitters. So then I did that and I saw tons, right? But still no Brian Enton is the one that broke it first. He posted about it first, okay? Which he is credible and reliable, but I was kind of like, I want to see if they pick it up, which the mainstream media did pick it up, and now we all know that it is in fact a thing. So what I'd like to do first is I'd like to discuss the family's reactions, okay? Because I think that that's really an important part of it. And then I want to go through what this plea deal means, what it doesn't mean, all the things, okay? So how do you guys feel about that? Okay, but when I talk about the family's reactions, I want to preface this first. The families feel how they feel, and they're entitled to feel how they feel. It's their loved ones, okay, and the Goncalves family was in the most vocal initially. They've remained, in my opinion anyway, probably the most vocal out of all the family members, okay? And they've taken a lot of criticism, a lot. And I want to give them grace because they're reacting to the news the way we're reacting to it. Like I was, flitting around all over the tubes, seeing all the different reactions from different people, whether they are, as they're referred to on the tubes, pro burgers, where they feel like Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I don't know if some of it's a mixed bag with the innocent, right? Do they think that he's factually innocent? Some of them do think he's factually innocent. Some of them think that the state doesn't have enough evidence to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. So the innocent camp is it's, different opinions, different ranges of innocence, right? Um, but we all reacted. So why shouldn't they be able to give their honest reactions in the moment? And why can't and I think that they should get grace for that. Tess says, I didn't realize until Emily D. Baker explained the judge could deny the deal. That's interesting. Do you think he will? That was my very first thought, is there is no plea deal until the judge signs off on it. And we know from Judge Hine in the Ohio massacre, the Pike County massacre case, that the judge is not bound by anything. He or she does not have to sign off on the plea deal in the way that it is, right? So the prosecutor and the defense, they get together, they say, all right, well, in this situation, he's going to plead guilty to the 4 counts of murder, first degree premeditated murder, and the 1 count of burglary. And in exchange, we're going to remove the death penalty from the table, and we're going to give him a life sentence, all four life sentences, plus 10 years for the burglary. Okay. We know, like I said, from the Pike County massacre, that it's not a done deal until the judge signs off on it. Now, do I think that the judge is going to deny this deal? No, I don't. I don't. I don't think that he's going to deny the deal. Do I think that he may add caveats to the deal? He might. It depends on what's in the deal. And I think the family, by and large, I actually think that part of the reason, and I spent a lot of time thinking about this last night, and this is just my opinion. I don't know them. I've never spoken with them. But I do think that there is an element to them wanting the trial. I think that because they've taken such a rash of crap online and criticism online, having the state lay out their case and hearing the evidence, I think there's an element for the family, especially the Goncalves family, that's going to be like, see, this is the right guy. Do you know what I mean? And so I kind of I kind of feel like that's part of the reason why um, the family wants a trial. Now, Henry Sawson says, "Oh, perhaps if the deal is denied, the defendant gets the right to trial." He already had the right to trial. It's kind of like, okay, so remember Jake Wagner? The deal was if he testified in both trials, George's and Billy's trials, and he testified truthfully, that they would remove the death penalty from possible punishment in George and Billy's trials. Okay. So, and that he would receive a life without the possibility of parole. But the judge changed it in the last moment. And now he has an opportunity to have a chance at parole. So, hang on a second. I need to fix this. I need to do something here. Wonder how I can. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can do it here. Hold on. I have to do something really quick. All right. Because I needed to fix something. I want to show you guys something on Facebook, but I don't want my messenger popping up. So I needed to fix that. So in that case, the judge switched it around and admonished Angela Wagner for not stopping this, and gave Jake the one who committed the most heinous acts. Okay, the taking of the lives was heinous in and of itself, but what he did after the fact was foul. I don't know another way to say it. I mean, I probably do. I just can't think of it anyway. So I think that like I said, the deal is not done until the judge signs off of it. Do I think that the judge is going to do something like Judge Hine did? No. But what I do think is that what the judge might do, if it's not already included in the plea deal. Now, we don't know what's included in this plea deal. But I do think that a compromise is that the judge might have Bryan Kohberger do similar to what BTK did, which is stand up and testify about every single thing that he did. And, I think that would be a fair compromise, because the trial serves for the defendant. It's to prove the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, that they committed this crime on this day around this time, all the details beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay. And the thing of it is, a lot of people I've seen in chats asking about why will they make him testify to why. I mean, they might, but the fact of the matter is, motive usually isn't something that they're required to prove. Because what seems like a motive outwardly, I think motives are like humans. There's layers to motives, and I don't always think it's just one thing. I think it's several things. So, and even, let's be honest, even if we heard Bryan Kohberger say why he did these things, right? It's not going to offer, there's no justification. It's not going to be reasonable. It doesn't matter what he says. The reason is, I think it would only serve like later on down the line if he were to be studied psychologically. And so it's, it's not going to help us really understand anything other than, hold on a second. Sorry about that. We're not going to understand his why. We're just not, because there's no reason, I mean, and I'm not saying that Bryan is a serial killer, obviously, but the serial killers that he very much appears to have looked up to, BTK and Bundy, they gave their explanations of why they felt like they, were compelled to do what they did. And we all sat back and listened to it with our mouths open, like, bro, what? That's we couldn't make heads or tails of it, because, yeah, it's just one of those things. I just don't think it's going to be like, I think we're going to hear it, but I do think that for the families, okay, and I don't like, closure is not, you can't really get closure in a situation like this. Okay. First of all, these are college students. Okay. These are kids, really. Their lives were just about to start. They were just about to graduate from college. They were going to go off into the world, and who knows what they would have done or what they were, but we'll never know now. Thanks, Brian. But there isn't really closure in this type of situation because, like I said, they're kids. So it's the opposite of nature. Parents aren't supposed to bury their children. Okay. And this wasn't an accident or, anything like that. It was murder. He chose to take their lives for, it doesn't even matter what reason it is at all. Like, he just did it. So I don't think closure is the right word. But what I do think is they deserve to know what happened to their loved ones. They deserve to know, and how much they want to know, I think, is probably very individualized. There are some people who want to know every single detail. They need to know exactly what happened, every detail. Then there are the people that don't want to know any of the details. And then there's the people who are somewhere in between. But I do think that it's very likely that the judge may, require him to stand up and admit what he did and essentially testify to the details. Okay. Um, I think that is quite possible. So we should be prepared for that. The hearing is scheduled for 11 a.m. Mountain Time. That is 12 o'clock Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. Stephen Stearns also has a hearing tomorrow. Okay. I'm going to cover both. I don't know exactly what to expect at this hearing tomorrow with Kohberger. I don't know if the judge will sentence him right then, and the families will be given an opportunity to make a victim impact statement. I don't know. But let's go over what the families had to say and talk about it. All right. So let me scroll all the way down because this comes from the Goncalves, oh my gosh, Jen, come on. Goncalves, what is wrong with me? I cannot say it. The reason I can't say it is because I want to pronounce it Goncalves, but it's they say it Goncalves, so that's how I'm going to pronounce it. Okay. And this came from the Kaylee's younger sister who just turned 18. Okay. And I want to read this to you. All right. So it says, let me see if I can. I kind of want to share this, but I'm so worried that, let me just read it to you. All right. Because there's nothing to really look at. All right. Aubrey was unable to attend the meeting with prosecutors to beg for additional concessions to guarantee certainty in this case. We are all in awe of how she was able to perfectly articulate the following, especially at only 18 years old. We are so proud of her. Hello, my name is Aubrey Goncalves. I am the youngest member of the Goncalves family. Though I am unable to be there in person, I refuse to stay silent about a situation that should never have required this kind of gathering in the first place. What the families of Ethan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana have endured over the past 2 year and a half is beyond comprehension. From the constant delays to the relocation of proceedings, making it harder for loved ones to attend, the justice system has placed heavy burdens on those already carrying unimaginable grief. Through it all, we have tried to hold on to hope. We've believed in the process. We've had faith in the system. But at this point, it is impossible not to acknowledge the truth. The system has failed these 4 innocent victims and their families. These are not just names or headlines. Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, and Xana Kernodle were beautiful human beings who touched countless lives. They are not just the Idaho 4. They were sons, daughters, siblings, and friends, real people with real dreams. They deserve to be remembered for who they were in life, not only for the tragedy of their deaths. But before that can truly happen, they deserve justice, nothing less. The introduction of this plea deal just weeks before the scheduled trial is both shocking and cruel. Had this proposal come a year and a half ago, the families could have had time to process, discuss, and potentially come to terms with the idea of a life sentence, however difficult that may be. We could have had the time to understand it, to prepare for it emotionally, and perhaps even to find some degree of peace. But now, with the mere weeks left, we are being asked to absorb and respond to life-altering decisions with no room to breathe. Bryan Kohberger facing a life in prison means he would still get to speak, form relationships, and engage with the world. Meanwhile, our loved ones have been silenced forever. That reality stings more deeply when it feels like the system is protecting his future more than honoring the victim's pasts. The justice system was created to serve and protect, not to re-traumatize grieving families. And yet, time and time again, we find ourselves blindsided, unheard, and unsupported. This last minute plea deal feels less like an act of justice and more like an afterthought. We are not asking for vengeance. We are asking for accountability. We are asking for dignity for our loved ones. And we are asking, pleading for a justice system that truly lives up to its name. So they're upset, and rightly so. Okay. This came out of nowhere, especially when you consider statements that Bryan Kohberger made early on, before he was even extradited from Pennsylvania to Idaho. He said that he was very much looking forward to a trial and exoneration. An exoneration means something very, very different. And I don't think that it's a coincidence, and I don't think that it's an accident that Bryan Kohberger chose that word. Okay. Exoneration typically comes after a trial, but why speak of exoneration if you're just going to take a plea deal? Because a plea deal is, you're admitting that you're guilty. Okay. And I'm going to tell you what I think. I'm going to tell you that I think the reason that Bryan Kohberger took a plea deal is, like him and other people, it's got layers to it. I don't think it's one thing or the other. I think it's a combination of many things. I think primarily, and this is just my opinion, I think primarily for him, this is about control. He knew when he committed these crimes that Idaho has the death penalty. And he knew that there was a potential that the state could seek the death penalty. He's a criminal justice major. He knew this when he went in when he broke into their home and when he took their lives in such a savage and brutal way. He knew what he would possibly be facing, which is why I would like to point out that the death penalty is clearly, for some people, not a deterrent. Just want to point that out. He knew. I think this is an issue of control. That's just what I think. This isn't the first time that a plea deal has been discussed, okay, with the defense, all right? I think this is, in my opinion, I think his primary thing was to do, I think he did this because he wants to control things. I think that's who he is at the core of who he is as a person, and he wanted to be in control of his own fate. That's it. That's all. And I think he also knew that if he spoke to his attorney and told his and requested his attorney to reach out and see what kind of plea deal was on the table. I think he did that intentionally, and I think he did that purposefully. And I think that he did that knowing that they would take the plea deal, that they would negotiate a plea. And I think that I don't actually think that he's afraid of the death penalty. I don't think that's what it is. I think what it is more than anything, I think this is all, seriously, this is what I think. I think it's all about control. See, in this way, it's one thing for us, the public, to be able to, and we're going to discuss that in a minute here, but to be able to go and request the documents pertaining to this case, to get the discovery. Okay. It's one thing for us to read those documents, but it's quite another for a trial to occur. And the discovery is discussed in the trial. Pictures are shown, but the testimony. See, that's the thing about that. There would be testimony. There would be testimony of the crime scene. There would be testimony. It's very different when you have a human being sitting on that stand talking about these things than reading it in a document. It's just two different things. It's a different experience. And I think that this is his way of controlling the narrative. That's what I think. That's how I feel. I think that this is all for Bryan Kohberger, a measure of control. And let me tell, and this is why, okay? Because let's think about the death penalty and what that actually means for Bryan. It's actually scarier for Bryan to have life without the possibility of parole. And why is that? Because he's going to be put into a similarly situated Letitia Stout situation, right? So where he will be housed in the prison is with people who've committed crimes just like he has, right? These are people who have nothing to lose, all right? Whereas if he were to receive the death penalty, he would be isolated. He would be confined to a cell 23 hours a day, yada, 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 all those things. He would not be in general population. It's safer to be confined to a prison cell for 23 hours a day than to be in Gen Pop, especially when you are notorious. Notorious is not, I don't even want to use that. The word I want to use is infamous more than anything. Your case is well known. I don't want to say famous, and here's why. Because fame implies a talent, a skill. This is not that. This is infamy. It's different. You're known for doing something incredibly barbaric, brutal, and heinous. That's infamy, not fame. So I think that that actually going into a situation where you are on death row is far less scarier. And Bryan knows that because he's been in jail awaiting trial. So let's see what you guys are saying in here really quickly. This is a good point. Neat says, I don't think he's afraid of the death penalty, but I think he wants to live. He wants people to study him and show them how brilliant he is. Agreed. I don't think he's scared of the death penalty. It's scarier to be in Gen Pop. Really, it is. Cicely says it's his final slap in their face, taking power over his own fate. Coward's way out. Okay. Carol says, so sad for the families of the victims, not justice. Titanium, hey babe, good to see you. Says he looks like the type that would like isolation. He doesn't look like the type that's going to be trading Little Debbie's and tasty cakes or ramens. No, absolutely not. Hey Angela, good to see you. It's good to see all you guys. Thank you all for being here, by the way. So I think that I don't think it's a fear of death that Kate had. I think it's all about control. I think everything that he's done, from planning the murders to carrying the murders out and everything that's happened after the fact, has been a measure of control. And this is his way of controlling all the things. Hey, Allie, I sent you a text. Check it, would you, for me, por favor? So I think, in my opinion, this is all for him about a measure of control. And I don't think that the judge is going to overrule anything. I think that what Emily D. Baker is doing is what she should. She's an attorney, so she knows these things, and she's going to give, like a doctor, okay? Attorneys and doctors, they give the various scenarios, right, of what could potentially be the results of a test, or what could be some outcomes. And she would be remiss, Emily Baker would be remiss, if she did not point out the legality of the situation, which is that there is no action. The plea deal is not a done deal until the judge signs off on it. And I applaud her for wanting to say all of those things. Okay, let me right quick give this to my Allie. Hold on. All right. I sent it through Messenger, Allie, because you know how it doesn't go through text so good. All right, so I sent her a link. Okay, I want to talk about this as well. I'm glad you guys are bringing this up. I really had like an idea in my brain of how this was going to go, but you know how my brain works. So also I wanted to talk to you guys in the chat, really. So poor Linda says, and Idaho doesn't have the Son of Sam law. That is correct. They don't have a law specifically, hold on, called the Son of Sam law. But un momentito, por favor, because I did look this up. And I want to tell you guys exactly what the deal is. All right, so no, Idaho does not have a law specifically called the Son of Sam law. However, Idaho does have a law, Idaho Criminal Code. I think it's Southern Second 66 through 320-326, that allows for the seizure of a person's asset if they are likely to profit from their crime by selling their story. This law is functionally similar to the Son of Sam laws found in other states. So if in Idaho, the law, Idaho Code allows for the seizure of a person's assets, including proceeds from selling their story, if they are convicted of crime and appear likely to profit from it. Let's bring up my friend and yours, Allie. Hi, babe. How are you?
Hey, oh my God, I'm freaking excited. I was excited to see you were live about this because, yesterday I could only think like, oh my God, I want to hear what Jen says about this. Like,
Oh, babe.
that's why I was asking you questions in the chat, because I couldn't remember if we had talked about that, and I knew you would know the answer. But yeah, and then I'm so excited you asked me to come up. But
I'm so glad you decided to come up. Actually, what inspired me to go live?
what?
I read your post
Oh, yeah.
and I saw it, and I thought to myself, you know what? Let me just go live about this. So
Yay.
yeah.
Dude, I was very frustrated because as soon as the news broke, I went into a channel that they have been more on the conspiracy side with this case,
Mhm.
but they were um, they also cover other cases and stuff too. And I could not believe the reaction, because a lot of people in the chat were like, okay, now I think he's guilty. I don't think he would do this. But the creator was saying things like, oh my God, he has to give up his right to appeal. Like, no, this is how they're going to get out of explaining how they found Brian in the first place. And just like spinning conspiracies immediately. And I just thought, oh my God, like it's never going to stop. It's so frustrating.
I
So,
did not, poor Linda. It is frustrating. There's something else I saw, and I don't remember where it was. And I'm not being critical. I'm repeating what it is that I wrote, that I read, because it intrigued me, and it made me want to go and look things up. So there was um, a comment somewhere about was this done was this collusion by the prosecution and the judge is not going to sign off on it, and therefore Brian is going to end up going to trial, and then the prosecution can bring up that he tried to take a plea deal? The answer to that is a resounding, all caps, bold font, underline, no. And here's why: because the prosecution would never, ever be allowed to tell the jury that there was a plea deal. Ever. It's prejudicial. Plea deals are confidential and kept from the public until they are reached for a reason. So no, that is not even a remote possibility. Okay?
it's crazy. Oh, I'm so glad you did this live. And yeah, I think people don't realize, but think about it. It makes sense. If you do a deal, you wouldn't have your right to appeal, because he's the one who asked for this deal, by the way. The
Right.
prosecution didn't offer it. So, I mean, why could you do appeals? Like, I don't know, it just doesn't make sense that you would be able to. And I know I've seen in other cases, I think that's the standard. Is it, Jen, that you give up your right to appeal? Because I know I've seen it before and it's not abnormal.
Typically, yes.
Okay.
Typically, yes.
Crazy, man. I don't know, what did you think though when you heard it? Because I know you text me. I got the message. I was out in the water and I told Siri to message you back. And
Do you want me to know? Do you want me to tell you exactly what I think? What I thought my first thing?
yes, yeah.
What a pussy. That's what I thought. To make the state, and the state has foot this entire bill, okay? Because he's indigent. He's got a state appointed, he's got a public defender. So the taxpayers of Idaho have paid for all of this. They've paid for his defense attorney, the investigator on the defense's side. The state is paying to move the trial from Latah to Ada. And I thought, what a dick. All this money shelled out. And now at the 11th hour, it's really not the 11th hour, but close enough, right?
Yeah.
Now he's decided, I'm going to plead guilty.
Yeah.
Angela says people are saying the Innocence Project could get involved. Is that true? I mean, could they? Is okay? I'm going to answer it like this: anything is possible, but it is very improbable that the Innocence Project would get involved.
Yeah.
Why would they?
Yeah. The, yeah. And again, this is his choice. This is something he wanted. Jen, I was really shocked because I don't know why I had this idea that he thought he was smarter and he could get away with it. Like his ego, I just had an idea that he was going to fight it till the very end. But after listening with Melissa yesterday and thinking about all of the past motions that have really surrounded the penalty phase, like it kind of makes sense that this is what Anne wanted all along. She wanted the death penalty off the table.
Right,
And they got it this way. So,
right. I
mm,
think um here's the deal. I think that this is I thought completely the opposite of Allie. Like okay, not completely opposite. When he decided to go to trial and he pled not guilty initially, although he didn't actually plead not guilty in his own words because he stood silent and a not guilty plea was entered on his behalf. That to me spoke volumes right there. All right. But I think that I think Brian wanted to be caught. I think he wanted and still wants the infamy.
yeah,
And
could see
I
that.
think that he
Interesting.
wants to be studied. Okay. Here's the thing about that, though. Let's say that the trial had proceeded forward and he was found guilty, and then you got all 12 jurors to be able to agree on the death penalty. All right. And they decided that he gets the death penalty. Let's say everything happened like that. All right. Brian would get automatic appeals. Now, could he waive his automatic appeals? Sure, but then there would be a hearing, there'd be several hearings um, to make sure that he was in the right state of mind and he could even do that, blah, 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 right? So, in the interim, though, he would be told he cannot talk. And I think Brian very much wants to talk, but I think he very much wants it. I think he wants to control it. I think there are going to be things, and I think that I think he will talk. And what I think he's going to do is something very similar to Ted Bundy. See, there were things about Ted Bundy's crimes, specifically the necrophilia, that Ted Bundy never, ever, ever, ever copped to. He never talked about it. The other thing that Bundy did, which I always thought was like just more games, is he referred to himself in the third person. He used the term the killer. I think that there's going to be something like that. I think that um, Kohberger thought he would get a few more murders under his belt before he was caught, but I think he ultimately knew um, because he studied criminal justice. And I think that he specifically like digital forensics. He was very well versed in that. And I think he knew um, all the ways that he could get caught. That's
Yeah.
what I think. Um, I do think he thinks he's the smartest person in the room, though. I do agree with Cicely on that. Yes.
I could see him telling what happened and getting enjoyment out of it. But I really got the vibe from him. He didn't think he would be caught. And it's interesting because I can't wait to get the discovery. Like, I know that it's a possibility it could be sealed. I highly doubt it. They've just the fact that they've had all these pretrial hearings and all the information that's went out so far shows me the judge, I just don't think it's going to happen. Is it possible? Sure, but I think we're going to get everything. And I can't wait because Jen, I believe he was using chemicals from like professional crime scene
Hmm.
chemicals, and I think there's gonna be a lot we don't know. And what I was asking you in chat, by the way, so they said in court in one of these last hearings something about the murder weapon. And if they brought it into the courtroom, it would have to be in a case. The judge said something like it would have to, what would you do? Have it in like a display case, or, it'd have to be protected like that. And that's why I was asking you, could that be a replica, or did they find it and we just don't know about it yet? Because they definitely mentioned that it would have to come in the courtroom in a case, like in a protective display case. That's what I think they
Well,
did.
there's a couple of different scenarios there. Let me just really quickly, let me say thank you. Just give me 1 second. Hold on.
Okay.
I want to acknowledge this. Thank you, Nature Rocks, for being a member for 26 months. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for supporting me and the channel. Lil Red, thank you for being a member for 18 months. I appreciate that so much. Cement Shoes, 39 months of membership. Thank you
Wow.
so much. I appreciate.
That's
I
freaking awesome.
thank you. Okay, so let's break this down. They have, to my knowledge, they have not found the murder weapon, and they are still searching for it very recently. That's what I understood.
But not the police. It was actually private people searching for it, like a PI.
Okay.
It wasn't yeah.
Okay. So it's my understanding that it would be a replica. And the reason why it would have to come in a display case is because showing that this is the weapon that comes that belongs to the sheath, they have to be very, very careful. They cannot show it and open it coming from an evidence bag. See, if it were evidence in the case, typically what they like to do is the prosecutor will hand it to whoever found it, right, or whoever's going to testify about it. They hand it to them in the evidence bag. They establish the chain of custody, all of those things. They open it in front of the jury, yada, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason that they're going to bring it into a display case is because they're going to have to be very careful about how they testify to it, right? They can't say that
Wouldn't that
it would be
it be
more like this is the
dangerous though,
type
too?
of weapon. What?
Wouldn't it be dangerous though too, because it's not in a sheath and it doesn't have, like, they'd have to have it in a case for that reason alone, right? Just because
Well,
it's sharp
I mean, they've displayed knives before without it being in a
without
case.
sheaths, and they're
Yeah.
wrapped. They're in a bag or something.
Well, yeah, I
'Cause-
mean, and they've taken them out before. I mean, remember the Murdoch case? I mean, they had the guns in the courtroom
right, but
and
a
they were
knife is
picking
like
them up.
sharp
Well, yeah,
that
I
it
mean,
will tear a
yeah.
bag open if
Well,
it's in
this
a
is
bag, or
true.
you know
This
what I
is
mean?
true. I mean, there's going to be, but I think the more the yeah, and I think this will obviously, if the jury wants to view it and they want to take it back, right? It would then that would be, do you know what I
Right.
mean? For safety
See,
purposes.
I thought it was you, but it must have been somebody else. But it's
No.
somebody very smart that I like knows a lot about the court process. That's why I thought it was you. Who
Oh,
was it? Because they were like, I don't know if Anne. I think Anne would fight them bringing a replica in. I don't know if they could do that because it could make them prejudice. Attaching it to him
I mean, the
could
fact of
cause
the
some
matter
sort of
is it
prejudice. But
depends on how they bring that testimony in. So if they were to bring it in, I would suspect that the only way to get it in would be for them to show the searches that Bryan Kohberger did for the K-bar knife after after the murders on the 15th,
right, yeah,
and show this. We wanted to bring uh, it in so we can show you what it is that he was actually searching for, because a picture doesn't do it justice.
yeah.
That's
And he
what
bought one on Amazon. They found his,
correct.
yeah.
That too.
So
So it's not what they can't say is that knife that's in the display case is the murder weapon. They have to identify it as a knife similar to this. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes. Okay, interesting. Well, I think there's definitely, no matter what, a lot of stuff we haven't seen yet. Like every time there was a new filing, we were getting new information about the text, new things that he was searching. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
I just, people would say, even yesterday in that chat I was mentioning earlier, a lot of people were being like logical, but there was a lot that weren't. And they were saying, oh God, I lost my train of thought. Hold on, maybe it'll come back to me. Um,
I think that crocheting Bammy, I think there's a lot of ways they could do it, but if they wanted to pass it around to the jury, a display case would be the most safe.
Damn it, what was I gonna say? Because I totally lost it. I hate when that happens. And there's I
Something
have so
about
much.
conspiracy.
Okay, yeah, but the comments in that chat, I know I was going to mention one that was in there specifically, but at the end, oh, they had, I know what it was. They have nothing on him. Sorry, my brain is like ding, ding, ding with this because there's so much I want to say and so much I've thought about. But they have nothing on him. Why would he sign a plea deal? Well, obviously they've got something on him, or Anne wouldn't want a plea deal, right? She's a
Right,
pretty good attorney. We've heard all about how qualified she is and what a great attorney she is. Um, she was fighting this up until the very end, throwing everything out. We don't
right.
know what they have on him.
No, we don't. All we know is some of the evidence that was in dispute. That's it. That's all. We have no idea the evidence that the state has against him. Now, nature asks, this is a question that's come up so much, so much, so much. We're going to talk about this right meow. Nature says, when they take a deal, does that mean the public can't see the records? Like, are they sealed? I know that everybody has that first and foremost on their mind, that they're having PTSD from the Watts, all the
Yeah.
things. Let me explain something. This situation is very, very different
Oh,
than the
yeah.
Watts case. And let me explain why. Number one, when Chris Watts decided to take the plea deal, they were still investigating, and it was still quite early on in all of the events. The case that the investigation into Kohberger has been going on for over 2 years at this point. Okay,
Yeah.
2 years and 7 months. So that's number one. Number two, the victims in this case are very, very different. In the Watts case, we're dealing with minors.
Yep.
And so that's why. And think about the things that were sealed in that case. The
The
things that were
autopsies,
sealed,
right?
exactly. The things that
Mm.
were sealed in the Watts case really pertain to the victims' autopsies and things that medical records and things like that, specifically to CC and Bella. Okay,
Right.
so that's typical. The reason that things were sealed in the first place in this case, okay, is to protect Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial in an effort to keep the jury pool as large and untainted as they could. That's the only reason why the majority of the things in this case were sealed. It was about the trial. It had nothing to do with it other than that. So this is what I think will happen. I think that the majority of the discovery will become unsealed. It will be available for a FOIA request. There will be caveats, though. They're never going to unseal the autopsy pictures. So I, you know, that's I don't think that those are ever going to become public record. Although mistakes do happen. Colorado, I'm looking at you. They do happen. Hey, Wolfie. So, oh, that's feedback from me. Who needed to? Is that how I sound? Oh my God, let me change it.
Well, and it's not just because of minors, though, Little Red. Like Watts actually requested with
Yes,
his plea deal that he would take the plea deal if if their medical records and autopsies would be sealed too. He's their dad. And Jen, what about the factor that Watts was a huge case, and we have this mistress, and no matter what I think about the situation, at the end of the day, she was seen as a victim in the eyes of the state, and even like protected, allowed to change her name and stuff like that. So of course that's going to be,
That's a huge
there's
factor.
nothing like that here.
That's
Yeah.
right. That's a huge, huge factor. And you're right. So I understand people's concern in that, because we've been, I mean, that look, that island, the Watts Island, that's a messed up island on a good day. All right. And the yeah, so I totally get that. Hold on a minute. I totally get that people are like, holy moly, is this what's going to happen? So no, no, we're not going to go back there. But this is what I'm discussing, Wolfie. I saw a lot of comments, and I went all over the tubes to look and see. I wanted to see what people were saying.
Yeah.
And so I went all over in all kinds of different chats to see. And I'm not judging anybody for their opinion. I don't have to agree with your opinion, but I will respect your right to have it. So I hope that the same courtesy is extended to me as well. I know you guys in the chat will, but I'm mainly talking about in the comments after the live. I'd appreciate if you would extend me the same grace, because I don't ever, anyway.
Yeah. Well, okay. So did you see like any professional opinions, like from any retired officers, attorneys, or because I haven't
I
seen any of that yet?
I didn't actually look for the professionals. I looked for
The
the
viewers.
community. Yeah, because I wanted to know what people were saying. I wanted to know what the temperature of it was. And I will say this. I know that a lot of people feel like, why are the families upset by this? This is the quickest, easiest. They don't have to go through a trial. They don't have to run the risk that a jury may acquit Brian. And then if they don't acquit Brian, getting 12 jurors to agree that he deserves the death penalty, they might not do that. They might go through sentencing, and Ann Taylor might present mitigating factors. Then, and the jury might say, you know what, we think that the best punishment for him is life without the possibility of parole, right? And people were very like, they were, I don't know another way to say, they were critical of the family's reaction. Okay.
Oh.
Why wouldn't they want this? This is the best thing for them. What we're getting from the family is, and it's so eloquently stated by Aubrey. It's right
Yeah.
here. The introduction of this plea deal just weeks before the scheduled trial is both shocking and cruel. Had this proposal come a year and a half ago, the families could have had time to process, discuss, and potentially come to terms with the idea of a life sentence, however difficult that may be. We could have had the time to understand it, to prepare for it emotionally, and perhaps to even find some degree of peace. But now, with mere weeks left, we are being asked to absorb and respond to life altering decisions with no room to breathe. That's how they feel now, in the moment. Actually, not now. Let me tell you specifically 13 hours ago. That's when it was
Right.
new. That's when it just came out. That would be like, all right, Allie asked me, what did you think when you heard it? And my response was, I thought he was a pussy, right? I'm better prepared 13 hours later to talk about it with a little bit of sense, and not be so crass about it,
Did you hear this one about like when here that the one they posted after that clarifying about
Yes.
when they
Yes, I was going to read that too.
Yay, okay.
You want me to read it really quick and then we can talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
Can you pronounce their last name for me? Because I think I'm saying it wrong. Because to me, all the years of Spanish and being Mexican, I want to say it like this, Goncalves, but they don't pronounce it that way. It's Goncalves, right?
Yes,
All right.
Goncalves. But
Consolvents.
I've heard other, I think other people with the same last name pronounce it also the way you said, but they pronounce it like that.
Okay,
It's my
Consalvis.
understanding.
All right. I would like to clarify a couple of things. We did talk to the prosecution on Friday about the possibility of a plea deal, and it was a hard no from our family. It was very nonchalant and barely discussed, as the majority of the conversation was surrounding the upcoming trial. Nothing in our conversation prepared us for the next steps. Sunday night, we received an email that sent us scrambling. We immediately jumped into panic mode and started making phone calls and sending emails. We met with the prosecution again today to reiterate our views on pushing for the death penalty. Unfortunately, all of our efforts did not matter. We did our best. We fought harder than anyone could ever imagine. Please do not argue or try to tell us that we should have done this or that. We gave it 200% for the last 2 years and 7 months. One day, we will tell you all what we have really been through from day one. You all will be shocked. We fought a long battle, but we lost the war. We did gain an army of love that we know will find, I'm sorry, we did gain an army of love that we know will always stand by us. We have so much love for each and every one of you. You all gave us strength when we felt like we couldn't take another step, called us off the ledge when we were ready to wave the white flag, and most importantly, prayed for us when we were in utter despair and hopelessness. No, when we were in utter despair and hopeless. So much love to all of you. So they are upset. And okay, let's think about this. Let's just be like objective about it. All right. He is reacting in a way where it's raw emotion. Yeah, obviously it's a typed out thing and you have the chance to go and edit it, but you can edit your typos, you can edit your sentence structure, but in that moment, you're not editing your emotions. You're responding with all the emotions. And I they feel like, and I understand this. I understand that why they feel like they were robbed of justice, because they wanted him to get the death penalty. They
Yep.
wanted for it at least to be a possibility. See, I think that they would have, if the jury had come back and said, you know what, we think the better punishment, the harsher, meaner punishment is life without the possibility of parole, then they would have accepted that.
Right. Ah, it sucks, man. And my heart goes out to them. It's so freaking sad hearing you read that and knowing, because look, well, also, they had already planned their travel, prepared
Yes.
themselves to testify or watch
Yes.
the testimony. And, you
Yes.
know, and I can understand wanting this to be, because now, yeah, the information will most likely come out. It's not
Yes.
that, but it's different when it's a public trial every day on the news every day. He's being held accountable. And then the possibility, like you said, Jen, just the possibility of the death penalty, because we know that's what they wanted. And I don't blame them. Here, I feel like I would kind of feel the same way, even though I think that it is meaner for them to have like him to face life in prison, because that's a life of misery. Then you look at it from their eyes, and they don't have their family member anymore. They don't get to watch stuff on a tablet or order from commissary or have a fan club, and they don't get any of that. They don't get to live or breathe at all. They don't get to call their mom and say, "Mom, how are you doing?" They don't get to know when they're nieces and nephews. It's freaking sad. It makes me want to cry when their family members have babies and stuff.
Right.
So yeah, seeing Brian even get to do that, even though he'll be in prison, that's still a lot more than they get with Kaylee. Kaylee doesn't get to call them from prison and check in on mom and dad.
No, she doesn't. And she didn't even know. See, this is the thing about the death penalty, right? If Bryan Kohberger or anybody that committed a crime similar to Bryan Kohberger and received the death penalty, right? They get an execution. They know that they're going to die. And I don't mean like they know that they're going to die in the way we all know that we're going to die. Okay. They know that they've got a finite amount of time and then they will die. Okay. It's different for us. We walk out of our front door and go about our daily lives every single day. We have no idea when it's going to be our last day. But people who receive the death penalty, they do. And they have time to make amends, to tie up loose ends, to all the things that to tell the people that they love them. Something that their victims were not afforded. Do you think that Xana knew that her last meal was going to be her last meal?
No.
No. I mean, Jack in the Box is delicious, and I missed it when I was in Florida because they don't have Jack in the Box there. But I'm just going to say, if I knew that was going to be the last thing that I was ever going to eat, that's not what I would pick. Okay, you see what I'm saying? And I know it's a
Yeah.
little dark humor, but it's true.
No,
She
but
didn't
really, yeah.
she didn't know that. You think that the last time? Okay, let's talk about. Oh gosh, why is it Jack? Wasn't it Maddie and Jack, or right? Maddie,
Jack was Kaylee's
Kaylee.
boyfriend,
That's
but
what I
Maddie, yeah.
gaslight myself. I knew it was Kaylee, and I
Gaslight
said, I
myself.
did. I was in my brain saying Kaylee. Okay, so you think the last time that Kaylee talked to Jack, she knew that it was going to be her last time? No. Do you think Jack knew it was going to be his last time to talk to Kaylee? Of course not.
Nope.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, look at Sleuth Investigates. Xana would have been 23 this Saturday, July 5th.
Oh,
Only
wow.
23, and this has
20
been going
years
on so
old.
long. It's sad.
It's sad.
Got
It's so
chills, though.
sad. It's so sad.
I just think of,
And that's the thing about the death penalty that I don't like. It affords the perpetrator something that they did not give their victim.
yep, that's true. I just think of Xana sitting there, Dylan hearing her crying and somebody telling her, it's going to be okay. Like, wow, fuck you,
Right,
Brian.
exactly. Exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. I can't it's awful. It's awful.
And then,
And I
Bambi,
understand why they're upset. Sorry, Allie. I talked
that's
right
okay.
the fuck over you. I'm so
Go
sorry. I'm
ahead.
rude. I gaslight myself and I'm rude.
No, you're not. Go ahead, though.
No, that's all I wanted to say. Go ahead.
I just was going to say, like, it makes me think of all the calls and stuff that we've heard with Letitia and her, like, for instance, this recent conversation about all the stuff that can be sent
Mm.
to her in the prison in those care package kids. And I mean, she has access to Dove, to Suave, to these, all the, not a lot, but still more options than she should get. Tons of lunch cakes, candies, chips, soda, just everything.
The
And
tablet. She
yeah.
can play games on the damn tablet.
Yeah, watch movies and listen to songs. She can play games, watch movies, listen to songs, have people buy her snacks. I mean, mm, it's just frustrating. It makes me think of what his life will be like versus how their lives ended.
Yes. And I have to say, I think that what we're getting right now from the Gonsalves family is their initial impressions, their immediate gut reactions. Do I think in time um, they're going to, they're going to accept this in time? I mean, that's just the way that it works. That takes time for that. Um, but I think that what we're getting is listen, can you, we were shocked that it was happening. And I agree with this. And I thought about this too. Where did Neat's comment go? All right, here it is. Neat says, J Rose, I don't think they thought it was a possibility credibility last week. The defense came to them. They should have prepared the family for it in any case. This is what I'd like to talk about. Where is the victim's advocate? Because, and I mention this because of the Pike County Massacre trial that's about to take place sometime. Who knows, Judge Hine? Billy, you know, the victim's family all got together and they said, we don't want a change of venue, and here's the reason. But they have in the courtroom, they had an attorney, but they also, the whole time when George was on trial, they had a victim's advocate who explains the process to them and, you know, helps them. And where was that? Where, you know, why was even leading up to the trial? Because let me just say this. The fact of the matter is this. Bryan Kohberger could plead guilty at any point in time. He could have done it in the middle of the trial if he'd wanted to.
Yeah.
He can, you know, and although a remote possibility, right? Why weren't the families prepared for this in any way, shape, or form? That's what's, you know, why didn't a victim's advocate sit with them and explain to them, listen, we're about to go into trial, okay? And let me just we need to prepare you for this. We can prepare for testimony, we can prepare for listening to testimony, we can, you know, the things that we're going to hear, but there are other things that could happen that we need to prepare for, that you need to prepare for. Where the frick was that at?
I wonder if they had them at all, advocates that were assigned to them, or yeah.
It
I'd be
makes me
curious to
sad.
know. It's
I
so
will.
sad.
It is sad. And I'll, you know, I think I want to answer because I agree with what Allie said, but I want to go a little deeper. Where's Violet's comment? Here we go. So Violet says, Jen, Lou, and Allie, do you think Bryan Kohberger is trying to shield his own family by taking this plea, or all self-serving? If he cared about his family in the first place and what they might go through, he would have done this in the beginning. But he doesn't. This is self-serving. I am very rarely, when I get a gut feeling about this kind of thing, it's usually right. I'm going to give you an example, okay? I said from the very beginning with Chad testifying again, or with Chad's trial, how they put Lori and Alex up. And Nate asked Lori about that. They blamed the whole thing on Lori and her, you know, vixen ways, her you know, all of that, right? And then of course Alex just did what Lori told him to do, right? And I said from the very beginning that Lori knows about this, that Chad is doing this. It is a trial strategy, and that they accept that in each other. They're not actually really Chad's not actually really throwing Lori under the bus. I said that. And then yesterday, during that interview, Lori told Nate the exact same thing. And she said the reason she knows is because Proctor came and not Proctor, my God, Karen Reed on the brain. Pryor came to visit her and told her about it. So I believe that everything that Bryan Kohberger has done from the very beginning of this whole thing, including the crime, has been about control. There was something about Kaylee and Maddie. I think that Xana and Ethan, sadly, I think they were collateral damage. But I think that there was something about Kaylee and Maddie in, like Bundy. I think that they were targeted because they represented something to Bryan. Somebody back in the day Some
Yeah,
girl.
like the girls that made fun of him and stuff we learned
Yep.
about or something like that. And,
Yep.
I can't help but think while you're talking of that, back to the images of his poor dad cleaning up the glass from his house from when Brian was arrested because they busted windows and they busted the door. They busted something. I can't remember what it was. But there was pictures like on the Daily Mail and stuff of his dad outside sweeping it up. Uh-oh. There's a neighbor's dog here.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Where's Rambo?
He's out here with me. Oh, God.
Rambo, mount up.
but yeah, he went home to his parents' house to be arrested,
Right.
and
Right.
had his dad drive him back. Which, here's another thing we learned in the Dateline investigation. He called his dad at 6 a.m. the morning of the murders. They talked for a long time, multiple times, for 40 minutes, 30 minutes. I can't remember exactly, so that's not exact, but for a while. What
Right.
did they talk about, and why did dad drive him home?
Right. Exactly.
Hold on one second. I'm going to mute so I can try to get this dog home because I hear the neighbor yelling for it.
Ooh, Sluice, that's a good, interesting that he was confused and loathed women. See, that's the thing. See, there are, and Allie and I had intended to do a comparison, right, of Kohberger and Bundy. And I think, okay, so Cicely says he went home to hide to distance himself. I think that um, I would more be inclined to say that he went home to cool off. Like there's, how serial killers have, they they commit a crime, they commit a murder, and then there is a cooling off period, and then they commit another because they need to feel that feeling again. And I think that that's what he did. I think he was, in essence, laying low because I think that I think Brian aspired to be a serial killer. And I wonder sometimes if he wasn't going to be Bundy in reverse, where he started with where Bundy ended with the sorority killings, the murders at the sorority house. I think Brian started with the murders of sorority girls, and I wonder if he was working his way backwards. Sometimes I wonder about that, I think that I think I just wonder. I wonder if he I think we're still gonna do that crocheting Bammy. It's just that we need to, we need to schedule it, and um I need to I do really want to talk about Bundy because a lot of people know about Bundy, right? And they know a lot of things about Bundy, but there are some details about Ted Bundy that not a lot of people know or they don't remember because it's been a long, long time. And I can't help but, point out, oh cripes, I didn't mean to do that. That it's interesting to me that what he was searching, and there are, I believe, people leak, and I think that he knew that if he were ever to be caught, that he would that kind of stuff would be found, and I think he knew it. So that means, in my opinion, there is a reason why he was searching Ted Bundy, and I don't think it has anything to do with his mom. You know, I don't think he was interested in Bundy because his mom, wrote an editorial about the death penalty as it pertains to Ted Bundy. I don't think that's what she might have. He might have, she might have been the one that maybe got him interested, or he remembered it or something like that, but I don't actually think that he did it for that reason. I think he did it because I think he is I think he has a lot in common with Bundy.
I would love to do for you to do the Bundy stuff. I know we've talked about that multiple times. You know, I'm so interested. So I would love to see you do that. But
Okay.
I got a question because I couldn't
No
hear
more
you because I was
questions. No more questions. I'm done for the day. That's it. That's all. No, go ahead, babe.
just one more. Okay. um, hold on. Let me go back to Neat's comment because I'm curious what you think.
Okay.
I Neat says I don't think his dad knew. Obviously, just my opinion. I don't know. And I think he did because we know that Brian's family was watching about this. Did his mom share a post about the crime or something? I think his mom had shared or commented on it. So his family, I think, knew, plus everybody. I mean, it was all over. If you keep up with any kind of news related to true crime, you saw it at the time, right?
Right.
But I don't blame his dad. Like, I don't think he knew before, but I think after he probably knew because the car, I mean, I could see the family going, well, they said 20, this year, and he drives this
Mm-hmm.
year. And maybe trying to convince themselves it wasn't him. But I think deep down inside, they had to know. That's
I
just my
think,
opinion. But
right. I think that they deep down inside had a very strong suspicion. And I think that when he was arrested and charged, I think that they were like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean?
yep. What do you think that call was about at like 6 a.m. to his dad and multiple, or to a number owned by his dad? I think, I don't know exactly what the facts are revolving whose number it was. I don't think we know too much besides it was a line owned by his parents. But calling them like really early in the morning, multiple times for long periods of time, like what I just would,
Was
I
that
wish we could hear
after the murder or before?
after. Right after, before he goes home and showers and takes that thumbs up picture in the mirror.
I think that there's a part of Brian that probably suspected that he was going to get caught a hell of a lot quicker than I think Brian was surprised he wasn't caught quicker. I think that because that's, I mean, even Bundy knew, and there's far less forensic um, we were far less forensically enhanced back then than we are now, right? Like there's a lot more we've cut advancements in
Yeah.
forensics, and so I think that I almost think that he was talking to his parents like that as um maybe maybe some level of, I need to say some things to my parents, or I, want to have this talk with them before they come and arrest me. You know
Oh,
what I
and
mean?
yeah. And then Neat said, do we know if they talk regularly? And then I agree with Tess. I remember hearing somewhere that no, this was abnormal. It might have been in
Mhm.
that series, but well, I got a question for you, Jen, because this
What
is
did
kind
I
of
said?
interesting. Now, and I know, I'm sorry. But I know, so Jen was not watching like some of these documentaries on purpose, waiting for the trial.
Mhm.
I watched the latest Dateline one, but I've missed a lot of them too. And there was one about to come out on Amazon Prime. And in this one, have you seen like the ads for it? Because the people that found the neighbors, the friends, Hunter and Emily, that
Mhm.
helped discover them, the victims,
Mhm.
are telling their story on Amazon. And it just makes me wonder, like, yeah, it just makes me curious about this deal and how, like, people, because surely they would be witnesses. And are they allowed to tell their story, though, wherever? Or, like, they're not under the gag order, I don't believe, right? It's only
I
the
don't
attorneys
think
and the
so.
state employees.
So here's the deal. Here's the deal. You know how that I'll say this. I believe after Wednesday's hearing, I believe the gag order will be lifted. So the fact of the matter is, the only reason the gag order was in place, once again, is to take every every available option to protect Bryan Kohberger's right to a fair trial. I think Bryan Kohberger is a demon, all right? But I will always argue for his right to have a fair trial, because even though our justice system is not perfect, of course, right? We have flaws, all the things. Then, but she does have the right to a fair trial, and that's what I'd like to see. I believe they have the right man. So if this had gone to trial, I would want it to be as fair as possible so that it couldn't be overturned on appeal. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, I agree with you. So they are witnesses crocheting Bammy, but it's only the gag order would only be for the state and then his defense attorneys, right? Or, oh no, wait, I remember something about officers of the court, like maybe any attorney that's working on it, even including Goncalves' attorney, or
Well, see, even the family was, I the parents were gagged. I mean, were they going to be called as witnesses?
I would think so, but maybe not. I mean, they were the ones who found him. Hunter's the one who,
Yeah.
yeah, like that's who found them. That's who Dylan and Bethany called that morning to come over, and that's who we hear on the 911 recording.
I mean,
So they're telling their story of like, which it's going to
which
be
means
very
they
interesting.
already told their story, because it's going to have to be earlier, because of,
Right.
Listen, I mean, it takes a while to edit. Even the most professionals, they want to edit it correctly, and they edit it one way, and then it goes for review, and then it gets edited again, and so I would imagine that I mean, this was done before, so a while back, not that long. I mean, it doesn't take that long. I'm not talking about like a year or anything like that, but
Right.
a little bit ago, so I don't know. I mean, if they wanted, it was an overly broad, according to Tess, that Tess says it was an overly broad gag order per Emily Baker. So I'm sure they weren't violating anything. Otherwise they wouldn't have talked.
Right.
I don't
And
know.
I remember something about like the Goncalves attorney couldn't speak, but they couldn't stop the family from speaking. Something like that. Like, but I'm trying to Google it now to try to fact check for us. But
So I just need like a little human moment. I'm gonna put on. I only putting this on because I want to hear what I have not watched this yet. Okay, so I want to hear what Steve says. Okay.
oh, was he where he was on
This
Ashley Greenfield?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yay.
Now,
I haven't seen it.
this is depends on whose perspective it is, either a very good pause or a very bad one. Ashley. My. All right, here we go.
I want to bring in Steve Goncalves. He is the father of Kaylee Goncalves. His attorney is Shannon Gray, who has.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Is that how you say her name? That sounds wrong the way she's saying it. Am I wrong?
Well, I didn't hear a name.
All
What'd
right,
she say?
hold on. Let me replay it.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
I want to bring in Steve Goncalves. He is the father of Kaylee Goncalves.
Yeah,
his attorney is
because
Shannon Gray, who has stood by him steadfast.
Is that
I think a little bit because she's using like the Gonzalez, and it's actually Goncalves, like but it's close. The way
gone?
that I understand
Okay,
it.
so Tess says gone Claves. I'm just going to have to listen to it, because to me the way his name reads, it should be Goncalves. That's how I would pronounce it. But
from the beginning.
All right,
Steve,
let's listen.
I don't know what to say. You're the first person I thought of when I heard this news today. I reached out to you right away, first to tell you how sorry I was, because I know how this is landing. At least I think I do. But I wanted you to have your say. I wanted you to be able to say out loud for everyone to hear what this means to you and your family.
This is anything but justice. This is the opposite of our will. There was no majority believing that this was acceptable. I want to honor all the police officers, the FBI, and all the people that work their tail off. The failure is at the court level, 100%. But the men and the boots on the ground and the women that were out there working, I want to honor everything that they did for our children, 100%. The fault is in leadership and the people that you place this evidence upon. They were weak. They decided to play God and decide what this man's decision should be, and not a jury, not a peers, not his peers. They, so that's where we are today.
Walk me through what happened. Brian Enton, did some really great reporting at the top of this show here. But tell me from your perspective how the last 3 days have played out.
I would say ever since Hitler's demanded an independent investigation, they couldn't get away from this case fast enough. They've done everything to make this case go away. So I don't know what that entails, but he said he was going to have an independent investigator, and all of a sudden we seemed like we were on rails to get rid of this case and make a plea deal. I mean, he's guilty. We all know he's guilty. There's more than enough evidence, but it's tough. It's tough to put a community through this, and it could be bad for reputations and business identities, and there's fallout. But this isn't the will of the victims. This is just one person making a decision, and it doesn't reflect what we were asking for.
Steve, did anybody ever call you from the prosecutor's office to just personally discuss this with you? Did anybody offer to meet with you in person to go over this potential plan?
We have meetings all the time particularly a lot of times on Friday. No. We had this regular meeting that we have to try basically do an update of what's going on, where things are at, because Idaho is actually an amazing state where it really does care about people. We just get one or two, people who just don't care about the victims and don't care about justice. And it's easy to take the weight out. It's easy to make an excuse and say, I'm doing this for the victims, even though I've never interviewed the victims. I've never really talked to them to find out what their true feelings are. So here we are. We're stuck. And we can't get out of it. I ask your audience if anybody knows Judge Hitler, reach out to him and ask him to put his foot down and not accept this offer. It doesn't reflect anything in Idaho. This is not justice. We had an outsider come to our community, kill our kids in their sleep while they're getting a college education, doing everything that they should do, and we don't have the courage to hold him accountable. No plea deal. Let's go for this guy. 100%. Let's do it.
Okay. What I'm hearing is, did you, Allie? Okay, perfect. Do you want to talk about that before I make this commentary?
Yeah, I can just read it. It's real quick.
Okay.
Let me see. It says, in the
Thank you, by the
Kohberger
way.
case, oh, you're so welcome. The non-dissemination order, also known as a gag order, includes attorneys representing the defendant, prosecution, witnesses, victims, and their families. So it's the attorneys, but not like the family members. Oh, it also says it includes agents, law enforcement, and investigative personnel.
Oh, okay. But if they were going to, okay. Okay, so this is what I'll say. Okay, this is just my opinion, and then I want to hear what Allie has to say. What I'm hearing from Steve is anger. Anger because I think what had happened is this. I think that they spent an inordinate amount of time on an emotional roller coaster just getting this to the trial, okay? And I think that they had prepared themselves emotionally for a trial. And preparing yourself emotionally for a trial, I can't speak from experience because, knock on wood, that's never happened to me. But I think that the way that Steve talks, and I've watched a ton of his interviews, it's almost like they prepared themselves emotionally for a battle. Okay, it was going to be all of the evidence that the prosecution has against, or the best evidence, probably not all, every single thing, but the best evidence that the prosecution has against Kohberger versus Ann Taylor and the defense team trying to poke holes of reasonable doubt. And I think that he had prepared himself and his family was prepared for that battle. And I think that because it came so abruptly, I think that now he's just doesn't know what to do with all of that, what he had prepared himself and his family for. And I think that um, I feel awful because I feel like maybe they did not. Um, I feel like maybe they did not have an advocate, a victim's advocate that could explain these types of eventualities, these potentials that exist for Brian to take a plea deal. And I think that he is very, very justified in his anger. He feels like he has been let down by the people that he came to depend on and had to depend on for to get justice for his daughter and her friends,
Yeah.
you know?
I think
And
he wanted to have it in his own hands, but like you said, he couldn't. So he had to depend on these people to do it for him, you
right.
know?
And
And
they and he went through all of this knowing, right, that the defense was doing all the things, and I can't fault the defense for doing what they did because that is what they're supposed to do. That is their job, okay? Um, I and I so I'm not faulting them, but every time this happened, every time there was a continuance, every time there was a delay, and they would prepare themselves for a trial that was impending, always impending, and then there would be a delay, and the trial date would get pushed back and getting pushed back, and there was a possibility weeks ago that the death penalty would be off the table, that the judge would, because the defense made a motion for it. And
yeah,
the fact of the matter is the judge could have said, let's okay, I agree with this. There's a strong foundation in law for this, and yes, he meets the criteria. And then what would have happened? Then they would have still ended up with this eventuality, which would have been life without the possibility of parole. But once they overcame that hurdle, and because I'm sure that their hearts were in their throat at that, and then okay, the judge said, no, he doesn't qualify. He's going for the death where he qualifies for the death penalty. He does not meet the criteria for, the death penalty to be removed. And so you know what I'm saying? So like, I feel like he's just been through it. And I feel
yeah. And
like, it's sad. I feel my heart goes out to the family. Go ahead, Allie. Sorry about that.
no, that's okay. But do you think that, like, because I was thinking, they ask them what they would prefer, right? What do you want? Would you want us to go for death or not? This has been a conversation for a long time because they didn't all agree. Not all the families wanted that, And so do you think that that made them think it was up to them to choose, when in reality, it was just they take their opinion into consideration, but it's not up to them. You know what I mean? Do you
Right.
think that asking them kind of made them think, well, we wanted to go for death. You told it, you made us think that's what was happening. So they're kind of feeling like betrayed or, um,
It
yeah,
is coming. They do. It does sound like the things that Steve is saying is. It does read. It does come across as he feels betrayed. Yes, I do think that. You know, um, the truth of the matter is, it's never. It's only. First of all, they do take their opinions into consideration. That's prosecutors do that. That's true. But at the end of the day, the person that is actually in control of their really, it came down to Brian. Okay. He could, like I said, he could have pled guilty at any point.
yeah, yep.
Look
Now,
at
in,
Aiden Fucci. Aiden, is it Fucci or Fauci? Fucci. Aiden
yeah,
Fucci, the day, the first day of jury selection, I was all set and prepared to cover that trial. Boom, he pleads guilty.
yep. I've seen it happen before too. That's what I was saying. It's actually not that rare to happen this close to trial, and probably common because people get really nervous going into trial and they're just like, okay, you know,
Right.
um,
Or their lawyers have been telling him this whole time, Boone, I'm looking at you. You should probably take this plea deal. You should probably take this plea deal. Jury selection had already begun in Sarah Boone's trial, and they reached out one last time and offered her that 15 years. Now the deal with that was she would have to say what she did. She would have to admit that she did this, right? And that it was not self-defense. And she was like, no, me and my Kentusukuroi will never admit defeat. So that's, but it happens.
well, you know what? Because the Sluice had mentioned she just filed the alternate suspects. I
Mm-hmm.
remember something about the state of Idaho, and I'm looking at one of an attorney's page from Idaho now. I remember they have to file like a certain kind of defense, whether it's an
Yes.
alibi defense,
Yes.
alternate suspects. That maybe they had to. I think she was just trying everything she could because they have to have something, and the alibi defense doesn't really work for him,
No,
considering.
I was just driving around, driving. I like pina coladas, getting caught in
Yeah.
the rain, like what the fuck, Brian?
Yeah. So I think that I don't think they ever believed these alternate, and that's kind of dirty. And it makes me think I put in Melissa's last night of like Leilani and Danny, them putting the blame
Mm-hmm.
on Danny, or Megan Boswell and Hunter.
Yep.
And, we see it a lot, this alternate suspect defense, but I hate it because you could be like, thank God the judge kept all of that stuff sealed because and they had four alternate suspects in this case, in that Kohberger's case. And the judge sealed all of that and had that hearing closed to the public. Thank God. Because, hey, the internet, these people, these pro burgers, they'll grab onto anything. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. And,
Right.
and they would
Even
have
this plea deal
harassed.
is I've seen it. Even this plea deal is some level of conspiracy.
Yep.
So many people plead guilty when they're actually innocent.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does happen. Okay, people take plea deals all the time. It happens all the time because it's not worth going through the hassle of a trial. Okay, but bruh, let me just point this out. This has been going through the justice system, and trial has been pending for Brian for 2 years and 7 months. Okay,
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah.
Mm-mm-mm. It's not a
Mm-mm-mm.
conspiracy, you guys. It's not that. Um, oh, this is a good point. Sarah Bellum, speaking as a former juror. If there is clear evidence that the defendant is guilty, but the defense puts out an alternate, it does not sit well with the jury. and you have to give notice. So we learned, this is not something we learned over here, but at one point when Lori was trying to get certain evidence, these emails or communications between Brandon Boudreaux and the lead investigator in his shooting case, and Brandon Boudreaux was asked to provide financials showing that essentially Melanie had stood to gain financially from his murder, right? The first thing that Trina K said is she trying to use an alternate suspect? She trying to say she doesn't benefit from Brandon Boudreaux's murder, but Melanie does,
Right.
and here comes, because so if you're going to put forth a defense like that, you have to give the prosecution team notice. Yikes on bikes.
It's wild, Jen. So what do you think's going to happen Wednesday? We have court. Like, what do you expect that to look like?
I expect that for sure we're going to hear that Kohberger is going to plead guilty. But I was listening, and I don't remember where I heard this, but it was, somebody that does have, credibility, saying that the sentencing would be pushed off. But I don't know why that would be. I don't understand. That doesn't make sense to me because I can't imagine that there would be a pre-sentence investigation, or that they would request a pre-sentencing investigation. Isn't the deal? Like, he's going to plead guilty to all 4 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of burglary, and the sentence is mandatory, life without the possibility of parole. And if the family was, maybe they decided, like Slu said, some have said to give the family time for impact statements, right? So maybe the family was prepared to come out to Ada County, Idaho, in August, and so that's when they'll make the sentencing hearing the date of the trial, which for the start of the trial would be the jury selection. So day 1 of jury selection, the family's intended on being there. And so maybe that's when they'll schedule it for, because they already had, the time off and whatnot. And the court was already going to be used that day for that. Maybe that's why. So I don't know what I don't know what to expect tomorrow. I really don't. I don't. Stefan has a thing tomorrow too. In fact, hold on. Let me just really quickly go ahead. What you're going to say?
Ooh, sorry, the plane was very close. It makes me wonder: is there going to be anything that the state says, "Okay, we'll agree to a deal, but you have to tell us what actually happened"?
Yes.
Or you? Okay, I hope they do that, because they should not agree to a deal without giving the family a little bit of something. And I think that could help the family, to hear him say, "I did this and this is how." And, at least a little bit, like, not necessarily super deep of how it happened, but
right.
some.
Well, they can make him go super deep. Look at what happened with BTK. He essentially stood up and testified, gave his testimony about what he did in each case that he was charged in.
Right.
So yes, they can, absolutely. And I do think that for the families, that it would be the best compromise, because I
Yes.
think part of the reason that they were wanting this to happen in the first place is because they wanted to know what happened to their children. And I think that they felt like um, they were denied that, or that they were waiting for the trial in order to get that, because they weren't being told um, all of the things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Bendy, I don't know. I don't know. It's very sad, but I don't really care. I really looked forward to the trial, but and I know so many people were disappointed, because they wanted to see it. But
mhm.
we'll still get to see everything probably quicker than we would have if there would have been a trial, because that was going to go on 3 months. I mean, maybe not until after sentencing, but we're still going to get to see it, in my opinion, most likely. And it saves, you know, I was concerned, and I know a lot of people have a lot to say about the roommates. A lot of people
Yeah.
don't believe them or trust them or whatever. And look, I had some questions, but at the end of the day, um, I think this is a lot better for them. I don't think they were involved. I think they could have been smarter, but also Steve said waiting until someone came over to discover him, and that time going by could have put his nail in the coffin, because he did some sort of search, or he did something. Steve said this on Ashley Banfield a few weeks ago, that actually waiting could have helped, prove that he was guilty because of something that he did. He searched for the Idaho murders, but I think that was a couple days in, but he did something that morning right before everybody
Mhm.
knew, that
Mhm.
showed he knew something happened. So i just I feel like if they would have testified, that would be all over. People would be tearing them apart, and it would have been really brutal. I really do.
So, yeah. So J Rose says, I asked that about having to confess to details on the stand last night, but a lot of people don't think BK will be made to do that, especially because they don't need to prove motive. Well, there's a difference between testifying to what you did and testifying to why you did it. Those are two separate, legally, those are two separate things. So, yeah, the state is not required to prove motive, but um BTK, part of uh, the plea deal was that he had to get up and testify about what he did. That's different than proving why than asking him why he did it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think, and they can absolutely make it a condition. And I think that the judge could say, okay, I will accept this plea deal under this condition,
Yeah.
you know?
And this judge, I really liked him. I really do. He is a little sassy but stern, and he wouldn't like he didn't let Ann go with the bullshit. You know what I mean? He knew the case so well that as she was trying to spin certain things, trying to get her way, he knew the details off the top of his head. He would be like, "Wait a minute, well, wasn't this and this?" Like, I just think that he did a great job. So I hope and pray that that there's something like that. But I knew he drove by though, neat. But Steve said it like there was something else too. I don't know what. I'd have to go back and find that interview. But if you do want to know, just text me and I'll ask. I know Melissa can tell me, or I can find it. But and I'll send it to you. The interview where he said that.
So, so when I just look up why did BTK testify in court, Dennis Rader, the BTK killer, testified in court during his sentencing hearing in August 2005. Although he pleaded guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder in June 2005, detailing how he committed each killing, he chose to testify further during his sentencing. So I think um um I hold on. Overall, Rader's decision to testify likely stemmed from, this is AI, from a combination of his psychological need for control and attention, as well as the lack of other viable legal strategies. His testimony provided a chilling glimpse into the mind of a serial killer and served as a final act in a long history of seeking control and recognition. So, I mean, that sounds right up Kohberger's alley, if I'm being honest about it. Seriously. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you need to do like a serial killer live where we also talk about Kohberger, but Bundy and
yes,
some because even what he said, like remember, we can go back to the reports of him first being arrested. Has anyone else been arrested? Like,
yes. And I'd like to say, who said that? What other serial killer said that, Allie?
I think it was BTK, but I get it confused every
Nope,
time.
you
Was
were
it
right.
him?
It was him.
Oh, okay. Oh, when you said no, I was like, damn, I knew it. Who was it then? But
Nope, you're right. You're right. And
that was so
also, hold on, I
interesting.
forgot to say thank you. Thank you to Bogart for being a member for 7 months. I appreciate that, babe. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
Bogart.
And I think, I will say this. If I do think that if Brian is made to get up there and say what he did, right? Um, and this might be another thing. See, the way that it could be that when Brian pleads guilty, he's going to be asked about each victim. And it's possible that in that asking about each victim, what he did to each victim is going to be in that part. Do you know what I'm saying? In the murder
Yeah.
of Kaylee Goncalves, did you honor about da 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 da? Did you? And then the details that could be part of it. I don't know. I'll have to wait and see.
Oh, I can't wait to watch his body language as they talk
Yes,
about each person too. Like as he has to admit to each one, how is it different for Maddie versus, the others? Because that's one thing which you said already, but that's one thing that Dateline had said they believed Maddie was the target, and that Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan were all, just unfortunate they were there because Kaylee didn't even live there anymore. She had already moved and had just came back to visit Maddie and show her new vehicle.
I know. I know. I mean, they were all, and then and I'll say this. I know that for me, particularly, the part of the trial that, I mean, I wanted the trial because I wanted to understand how the things that came out, how they, hold on a sec, what, how they were, connected all in context with all of the evidence. So the stuff that came out publicly. I could tell from one of the filings that contained texts between Bethany and Dylan that there's a gap in the communication, that either there was more to the text message or they communicated in some other way that wasn't included because it just jumped from one topic to another one, and it was very abrupt. I wanted to see how all of that fit together. And but I'll say this. I do believe that if there had been a trial and we heard all of the things, we would all still I think we would still be left with some questions. And like look at Letitia Stout. I believe, and I know most everybody I don't, that I've ever talked to or that's come into the chat and talked about Letitia, I know that we all believe that Letitia is the right person, that she is exactly where she belongs and all of that. But there are lingering things that we want to know. For example, for me specifically, I want to know the truth about the candle. Obviously, that's something important because that is the one detail of her crime that stayed consistent through the various versions of what had happened that day. That everything started with the candle. And so I wanted to, there's something important um, um, to that candle. And so, yeah, I mean, there were always going to be questions, I think. Um, but yeah, and I think, Cicely, I think we will get that evidence. We were going to get the details right in the trial. The details are the evidence, and I think that I think we are going to get that. I think that the evidence was sealed for one reason and one reason only, and that was to make sure that he got a fair trial. That's it. That's all. What do you think, Allie?
I agree with you, and yeah, man, I'm with you too about the candle and stuff. Like, I would love to know that. It's gonna always bother me, but because we know a lot, but there's just, and like you always say, there's some stuff we'll never know, but I want to know what actually started it. What was the
Yeah.
beginning? And will we ever know that with him? Maybe with a plea deal, we'll know more than with Letitia's stuff as far as that goes. If they require it, because why them? And when
Right.
did the plan start? Because he bought the knife before he even moved, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, and then there was this whole thing, Jen, that he did. Like, he did actually attend that pool party. That was in the Dateline thing. This is some of the stuff they're mad about. But there was a girl, and this can be in the serial killer lab. There was a girl who said that he was talking about like wanting to go hiking and stuff. And then this one person said they saw him on a hiking trail going up to the trail when it was dark, like getting dark when
Hmm.
most people are leaving. And so, did he go out to that state because of his fascination with Bundy?
I
You
think that
know?
that is a high, high probability. Let's look and see. I'll look. Let me look and see. I don't think so, but she might have. Um, let's see if Ann Taylor has said anything. She might
Yeah.
not until after tomorrow. Um,
Let me check the family Facebook page too, just to see, or the Idaho Facebook page, just to see if anything new here. Oh, guess what, Jen?
what? What?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Um, Starlink is sending us all new equipment and a free month of service because of the internet issues when we got home. So it'll be fixed, and I don't even have to pay for it. For that
Wow.
because yeah, they're gonna. I know, I'm so excited. It'll be here in a couple of days, so it'll be a couple of days still have to use mom's internet, but you know it'll be nice to be able to have it back here because it's been crazy.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm so excited for you guys. Okay, so I see nothing about her having made any type of statement respective to her client at all. And I don't think that she will until um until after the plea deal. But something interesting about the relation attorney client relationship. Okay. So, and measure of control. Could it be one of the reasons that Bryan Kohberger is taking a plea deal is because the only thing that releases an attorney from their attorney client privilege is their client's death. So, you want me to take this other one off?
What is it? More than one?
There's two. Yeah.
Yeah, all I did was turn off the Wi-Fi because it was picking up
That's
my
so
parents'
weird.
house, and
And it won't even let me kick you. Oh, crap. Is that you again? Is that the right one? No. Okay. We'll have to fix it. I kicked the one that was supposed to be kicked and it kicked both of you. Sorry, Allie. All right. So, Ann Taylor is a public defender, Violet. So, the only thing that gets an attorney around the attorney-client privilege is the client's death, right? We know that when their client dies, they're free to talk. For example, recently, sorry about that. It kicked both of you for whatever reason. So rude. I
Yeah.
only chose one to kick.
I've never gotten that alert before.
What did
I
it
got
say?
a thing that went across that said, "Sorry, you've been kicked from this broadcast."
Oh,
I've been
damn. Damn, Streamlabs, you rude as hell. Oh, your audio is terrible, babe. There's like reverb and everything. Okay. Anyway, let me say this. Hold on. Let me look it up. Let me just make sure I'm right about when this happened. All right. In 2022, the Netflix gave us the Conversations with the Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes. One of the people who was featured in that interview or in that documentary was John Wayne Gacy's attorney. Guess why John Wayne Gacy's attorney could talk? Because John Wayne Gacy was dead. Now, if you really want to get into a conspiracy theory or really want to get into like the higher, like, mindset, not higher mindset, but, the mindset potentially of the killer, in this case, Bryan Kohberger, is it possible the reason why he took a plea deal was to prevent Ann Taylor from ever being able to speak? As long as he's alive and he can release her from her attorney-client privilege, but if he doesn't release her, and as long as he is alive, she is not free to talk. All right, that's all I had to say. Allie, can you hear me, babe? Hello? Allie? Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
I don't know what happened, but I can hear you now.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. It's like the worst Verizon commercial ever.
Tess just sent me an article or a post from Brian
Okay.
Hinton on Twitter that said the Chapin family will be in court tomorrow and be in support of the plea. Then I was trying to tell you when I got booted about TMZ speaking with Xana's family, and they said they'll be there tomorrow to fight the plea.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And thank you, Tess, for sending that. But yeah, if you go to Brian Enton's Twitter, you'll see, more of it. I tried, but it tried to boot me again, so I'm not going to do it anymore. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. See, I think the deal is with this whole, there's different perspectives, obviously, from the families, especially.
Yeah.
On the death penalty, okay? And Fox News is reporting Bryan Kohberger will not have to. Okay, let me go look at the X Twitters. Un momentito, por favor. All right.
Oh my God.
I mean, okay, hold on. Let me look. Let's see. Hold on,
That
I'm
would
going to
be
try to
insane.
find it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be very happy. I'll be honest. I'm not going to be happy if he doesn't have to explain. Like, my opinion doesn't fucking matter, but I know that. But I'm just saying, like, no, because the families deserve that at least. I'm sure they'll get to see all the evidence. Hopefully the state will lay it out for them,
Yeah. Right?
Which, I think back to Gannon's mom saying I had no idea about most of the stuff presented in court until it was presented. Like they don't even tell the families a lot of the evidence to keep it confidential.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is what I care about. All right. I care about the families. Okay. Even if would I like to hear what Brian has to say? Sure. Okay. But if he doesn't have to explain it in open court, it would be selfish of me to be like, I need that closure. I don't, but the families do. And I do think that maybe if he doesn't have to explain it in open court, perhaps there will be a point where he does explain it to the victims' families. I don't know. I have no I uh, idea what they would do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they can.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not an attorney. So, oh, Sleuth, you tagged me on the Twitters? Oh,
Yay.
look
Okay.
at me. I got tagged.
Thank you so much, Sleuth.
Let's see.
Look
How
at
do
me,
I
got
even
tagged.
find? Oh, notifications. Here we go. Sleuth investigates. Ah, she did this. Okay.
Crocheting Bammy, he would have to what okay, so there can be conditions in a plea deal. Like there can be certain things that have to be certain requirements that must be met in a plea deal. It really just depends on the people negotiating the deal. So
Okay, I need to figure out how to follow the notification. I'll
I
follow
set
you
down my
back.
cigarettes somewhere and can't find them. Not happy about it because they're my favorites in the backup pack
I see how to
bought
do
and
it
put
now.
extra.
Look at me. I did it. Update.
Give it to us, Bendy. Okay.
Bryan Kohberger will not have to explain the crime as part of his plea agreement revealed yesterday, according to a source close to the case.
Who is that?
That is Mike Reports.
No, I mean, I wonder who the source is.
Right, exactly. Will not have to explain the crime. Wow. Wow. I did it. And Sleuth followed me and I followed you back. Thank you. I feel
What do you think about the judge? Like, what is he going to think when 3 families are strongly fighting it and one agrees with it? And like Tess had put in the chat here, where's that? Xana's family said it's 3 versus 1. So we know, because I've heard Maddie's family and Kaylee's family are very close. And then Xana's mom in the beginning did not want the death penalty. So it's really interesting that she's joined that fight. So it's those 3 families versus Ethan's family, who at first they didn't even want to go to the trial. They weren't going to watch it. They did come around to where they had said they were going to go, but now they say they will be there in support of the plea. Will it matter?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if they actually have legal recourse. My first inclination is I don't think that they do. I don't think that the families have legal recourse. I don't know. I wish that I knew, you guys. I wish that I knew the answer, and I wish that let me see. Let me let me take this off the screen, and let me make it smaller, and I will search Emily, see what she said last night.
Also, Enton, if you're on Twitter still, but because he's the one posting the other stuff about Xana's family and Ethan's family.
Okay, I'll look there too.
Okay.
Let me look here. All right, and let me go to the transcript and see if I Okay, hold on a second. All right, hold on. All right, let me look at her transcript because this is the part of, and shout out to Emily Baker for, I'm sorry, let me call her by her full channel name, Emily D. Baker, for time stamping her videos, unlike your friend here, Jen Lu, who does that sometimes, but not always. Let me see if I can see. Let's see. Hold on a minute. Let me see if I can find something in the transcript where hold on. It hold on. If they have recourse. Okay.
Okay.
Give me just a second, you guys. I'm
Hey,
sorry.
Tess, the interesting tweet you sent Jen. No, that's okay. The interesting tweet you sent Jen, is that the same tweet you just sent me? Because I can read it to her if you want.
Oh, perfect. Can you fill the dead air by me trying to search?
Yes. Okay, so this is from LTL Media, but she says an interesting explanation of why the families are upset. So they say, make no mistake, Bryan Kohberger relished the spotlight as he dragged this case through the courts for nearly 3 years. And in the end, he delivered a final gut punch to the victims' families with a huge FU by taking a plea deal and refusing to let this play out in court, revealing the truth of what really happened to those 4 victims in November of 2022.
Wow.
I know. Let's see if I'm going to pull up Brian Enton's too, the first one that she sent. So the second one was what I already read, which is Xana's family or Ethan's family will support the plea. But Enton put his personal feelings. So he said, my personal feeling is from the beginning, Idaho has not wanted to deal with this case. From University of Idaho taking ownership of the house and tearing it down, to the initial judge passing the case on, to the gag order and constant annoyance with any attention the case gets. So.
Oh my goodness. Hold on. Say that one more time for me or don't say it for me. I can't respond because I was looking for something and I can't listen and
it was just,
I'm not.
No, that's okay. It was just Brian Enton's. Okay, so Enton believes that from the beginning they haven't wanted to deal with this, which is why the university tore the house down, and he thinks this is just them still not wanting to deal with it, basically. He said, from the University of Idaho taking the house and tearing it down, to the initial judge passing the case on, to the gag order and constant annoyance with any attention the case gets.
I mean, wow.
I'm surprised that's his opinion because I think that yes, when this is over, it'll be a relief. It'll be a lot of attention off of this prosecutor's office and off of the university. And I'm sure that that's hard, but I think that every court likes to do a plea deal because it's easier, right? And that's, personal feelings, however you feel about that. It's easier to take a deal than to pay for all the people to stay, like the witnesses, to have
Correct.
the hotel stay for everyone to figure that out, the jury, the judge having to be there all day. Not only that, on camera. And this is so many people talk about it. That's what I was saying about the roommates. I mean, this would have been on the mainstream news every day for 3 months.
Yes.
So I could see wanting to get away with it, but I think all courts do it. Sorry,
this is the thing, okay? When it comes to both a criminal and a civil trial, okay? They want, ideally, the courts would like for the parties to come to a resolution themselves. Trials are expensive. This trial would have been astronomically expensive due to several factors that Allie has already mentioned. Brian has been declared indigent. That, therefore, he is receiving the services of the public defender's office. Who do you think is paying for those services? The taxpayers. Okay.
Yep.
Changing of the venue, moving a trial is extremely expensive. Okay. Not to mention they're going to pay the jury every single day for them being there. Like Ali mentioned, there is travel costs, hotel expenses, all of the things. Expert witnesses get paid for their, they get paid for their travel, they get paid for their work on the case prior to even coming to testify. And usually testimony is billed at a higher rate, and that's, all of this is on the taxpayers' dime. So plea agreements are reached all the time. Here's the difference, though. Okay, I'm not, and I want everybody to hear me and to hear me well. I am the families feel how they feel. They're entitled to feel how they feel. I'm not knocking them or arguing with them. I'm not, their feelings are their feelings, and I'm not even addressing that right now. I'm talking about like just the way that us as the public feels, okay, about this plea deal. Because I'm not going to criticize, I'm not going to try to convince or speak to the families and how they feel. Their feelings are their feelings. That's it. That's all, the end. That's, my name is Paul, and that's between y'all. They're entitled to that shit, not me. So I'm not even addressing that. I'm talking about to the people in the chat, the people that are going to listen on the replay potentially. This is my thoughts and my opinions on the plea deal. It would be very different if the plea deal was for something less than what the original charge was. Like if the initial charge was, 4 counts of first degree murder, and the plea deal was for second degree murder, something that
Which
was less.
doesn't that happen often too? Like a lot of times they
Yes.
will
Plea
lower.
down?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Absolutely, it happens. It happens. They plead, the case gets pled out and pled down. Oh, Sleuth, thank you for becoming a member, babe. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Welcome to the ward. This is not that. And, Brian is going to be held accountable. There would have, and I'll just, there's a huge possibility that when this went to trial, that they couldn't get 12 jurors. We have no idea what Ann Taylor was intending to present at sentencing for mitigation factors, and how or if that would have swayed a jury. There's also the thought process that when you're seeking the death penalty, you have to get death penalty qualified jurors, which means that all of these jurors, which, usually it's not just 12, it's because they have to have the alternate. So let's say for just for a number, 16. Okay. So they have to get 16 jurors. All right. That means these people have to say, yes, I am prepared to give the death. Should I find the defendant guilty, I am prepared to give the death penalty. But that doesn't mean that they will. Look at Jodi Arias. Okay. Remember, she was like, yes, I want the death penalty. Then no, I don't want the death penalty. And the jury did what they wanted anyways. And she got life, because even though the death penalty is an option, and the jury may find within themselves during deliberation that the worst punishment would not be the death penalty, that the more appropriate punishment for this type of crime is to sit in general population. You don't know when it puts in the hands of the jury. At the end of the day, the jury is the one that makes the decision. And, you never know what 12 people are going to decide. There was always a possibility. The possibility always existed that even if this had gone to trial, it could have ended up being a life without the possibility of parole sentence. That's my point. That was a long way to go for all of that. Sorry for my Miss America answer.
No, I love your Miss America answers, and honestly, it's very likely that would have happened. You know what I mean? Honestly,
Yes.
truly think about it. People are less convicted these days, and Anne is a very good attorney, even though she didn't have much to work with on the case with the mitigating factors in the penalty phase. I think she could have made something happen. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just sitting here thinking, like, dude, I'm so thankful for you and for you guys in the chat. Like,
Oh,
after yesterday and all the conversations that were happening, and it's so nice to talk to people who don't like. Conspiracies are okay if the facts lead you there, but
right.
when they just twist everything, and it's just really frustrating. Like, I was just reading yesterday, arguing with people, and
Oh,
I know
bless
it's
your
stupid,
heart.
but I can't help it. Like, it really upsets me.
I
I'm thankful
want,
to be
yeah,
here with you
me
guys.
too. I'm glad you came up, and I'm glad for all of you guys in the chat. I really am.
Me too.
And
so
by
glad
the
you
way,
asked me to. I hadn't seen it.
By the way, I have, after I end this live, I'm going to go over the Lori Vallow Daybell Demon trial interview from Nate. Would you like to do that tonight with me?
Yeah, I'm down.
Okay. All right.
Oh my God, are you just going to play the interview? Because I haven't watched it yet.
Yes, I'm just going to play the interview.
Yay. Okay.
And we're going to talk about it all. And I want it before. Okay.
It's probably going to take a while to get through it.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. Are you
which is
kidding
good,
me?
but
I want to read you guys something in that spirit. So before we cover the live tonight, I would like to give anybody who's interested in watching it, go over to East Idaho News and watch the live that Nate Eaton did with the interview. There's also a video where it's just the interview, however you like it. Okay. But he started the live out last night by explaining his process of interviewing people and why he asked the questions that he did and why he said what he said and how he behaved, why he behaved the way he behaved. Right. Okay.
Right.
He said he knew he was going to get backlash. He's posted this to X. And this is an email that he received to Nate Eaton, East Idaho News. I liked you. I thought you were different. I am so disappointed to learn you are just like all of the other media who lie to get a story, lie to get an interview, lie to embellish a story as self-promotion. I hate the media and all of their dishonesty. I thought you were honest. You are not. What else have you lied about? I will never believe a word you say. Does your LDS religion teach you to lie? Yes, it probably is. That is why your religion is, and this was redacted, but fucked up. Shame on you. I have unfollowed you on Facebook. I have unsubscribed from your fake news YouTube channel. I can go to all of the other media outlets to get lies and fake news. What did Nate lie about?
Wow.
Why is everybody so up in arms? Because Nate the better and bigger question is this. Why wouldn't Nate Eaton interview Lori? Okay, if I had the opportunity, the only person that I think I would become completely verklempt with and could not formulate a sentence in order to interview them is Mr. Robert Alessi. That's it. That's all. Alan Jackson, no problem. Mr. Yannetti, no problem. But you get Mr. Bob Alessi on my channel for an interview, and I would not be able to speak. I know myself, I wouldn't. I would be all over the place. The buffering would be astronomical. I would buffer more than I spoke.
Dude, I get
Okay.
this though on a small scale, because when I've interviewed people that are friendly with the killers I've talked to, or when I've reached out to people myself, which I've spoken to BTK, to Letitia, to a couple of different people, right? And people get mad about it. And I always say, like, I would interview anybody, like, especially the person who's accused, because to be
Right.
able to ask them directly, like, there is nothing wrong with that. Don't forget, Nate Eaton is that voice you hear in that video of Lori in Hawaii. Where's the kids, Lori?
Yes.
Before they were ever found. He's covered this from the beginning. He has every right, and I'm so glad he did it. Like, I really am. I cannot believe people get so mad about that. Don't you want to hear? Even doesn't mean that he believes what Lori says. Doesn't mean he
Right.
likes Lori. He just wants to get her to answer questions, just to see, even if she lies, how she lies, her body language, her facial expressions,
Right.
all of it. Like,
Exactly.
Jesus.
Exactly. And I know that people are like, because he spoke about this. Why didn't you punch her in the face? Well, last I checked, that's assault, which is illegal. So why would Nate try to catch a charge? Why would
How
Lori be
stupid.
worth catching a freaking charge? It wouldn't be.
Why
She's
didn't you
not.
punch her in the face? Yeah, Nate
Right.
Eaton's gonna go with his film crew and just knock Lori out. That sounds like a great idea. Like, how stupid.
Sleuths
Ah.
right here. I want an interview with Ed Kemper. Me too. He's so smart and want to know why he did it, but I think he is a damn monster. Absolutely. He's so self-aware. Let me say this correctly. He comes across as very self-aware, as if he understands why he did what he did, and he's very articulate and capable of answering all of those questions, but he's also a lying liar face who tells lies, and all of the answers are in fact self-serving. But I still want to hear them. Do you know what I mean? He
Yeah,
asked Lori tough
absolutely.
questions. Look, Lori wanted a bag of peanut M&Ms. He got her a bag of peanut M&Ms. So freaking what? Is he on a phone call? New Amy, we're looking at you. Talking about, I don't know why people are so angry with you. No, he asked her, he said to her, girl, this is not verbatim. This is just my interpretation of what he said to her. Man, Lori, you've been convicted 3 times by 3 different juries of being involved. They said there was a conspiracy. You were part of the conspiracy. You're guilty, guilty, guilty. Now you're coming out with some cockamamie BS. He asked her the hard questions. He just did it in a respectful way. And I don't know why people are angry about that. You wanted the information. Where would him have strong, stonewalling and being rude to Lori? Where would that have gotten him? And if he hadn't asked any questions and let's just let her
And
talk on and on and on and on, she would have been everywhere. We would have gotten nothing but a bunch of gibberish out of her. Seriously, he did a good job. Nate Eaton, don't you let that
yeah,
person discourage you. We here at the Ward and Allie Erickson, we adore you, Nate, and we think you did a good job. And we, in fact, would like to give you some
yes.
applause. This for you, Nate Eaton.
Are you gonna play your thing? I thought you were gonna play something.
And this, I am.
I bet New England hates her
Just a
name.
minute. And this is for the person who
Okay.
wrote that email. I got something for you too, because I like to be fair.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
I hope that makes you feel better, Nate Eaton.
It's just flat out ridiculous.
It is.
Violet had a great question. She said, if we could ask Lori, Tisha, or who was the other one, any questions, what would they be? And before we answer, I just want to say Lori, Sarah, and Tisha. So I had the opportunity to ask Tisha whenever she, for people who don't know, just a quick summary, whenever she was moved, you could only see it on the Getting Out app. And we saw in a Facebook group, hey, I think she's in this prison. So I downloaded the app they used and messaged her. And then I had some of my own personal situations where I used it anyways, and I kept it. I also reached out to BTK. Well, I didn't message her. I'm sorry. You have to add people first. So I added her and she blocked me immediately. And then she would write us every night and block. I could not respond for the longest, and respond to everything Jen and I said in our lives. Well, then finally at one point she unblocked me and I was like, oh my God, I can at least tell her how I feel. So I was not nice. And I asked her, when are you going to be honest about what you've done? You deserve to be held accountable and tell the truth of the situation, not all this other bullshit. And she told me, I don't owe you anything. And then she went on to say, but if you think I don't cry, at night when I'm in my cell, or if I don't regret things, you're wrong. So that kind of shocked me because I'd never heard her ever even come down a little bit off of her BS. So I had the opportunity to ask her whatever, which was that question. But what would you ask her, Jen, if you could ask her anything and that you think she really for real to get an answer from her? Is there anything you would ask? Or Sarah and Lori.
So from for Letitia, I would ask, what started this? With Lori, I would ask, let me think about that one. With Sarah, are you talking about Sarah Boone?
Yeah, I think so.
With Sarah Boone, I would ask, how dare you? No, I would ask her, why didn't you take the plea deal? Do you regret it? So that's Sarah, Tisha, now Lori. With Lori, I would ask, I don't know what I would ask Lori, because she says that that she didn't kill JJ or Tylee, that it was a murder suicide, and it's so ridiculous that I would ask her this. How come it is when you were doing that Feel the Fire podcast with Mel G, and was that haircut intentional? Number one. Number two, oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to burp. Number two, was that haircut intentional? And number two, why, of all the things that you could have asked Chad about Jesus, why'd you ask him about what Jesus was wearing? Well, why would you ask what Jesus's outfit of the day is? Why does that even matter to you? That's what I would ask her, because I think everything else would be poppycock. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say with Letitia. I've come to the point where I have nothing to say to her because I already said that. And she, gave me a little, I'm still shocked by her response, only because she admitted that she regretted things and that she cries about it. And I'd never expect her to even do that because she spun so much bullshit. But I would love to hear the answer to why did this start in the beginning, and also Sleuth's question, why the different things, what why did you, like, head injury versus stabbing versus gunshot wounds? But I don't think she'd ever answer that. And with Sarah, I think your question was perfect. Like the plea deal,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but she doesn't regret that. I really believe she has to. That was so stupid. And then with Lori, I can't believe that she's blaming Kylie. Like that really just, it hits me in the gut because she's already done so much to her. They, dismembered her. They burned her remains. I mean, they completely destroyed every part of her and her
Yeah.
remains.
Yeah, they
And it's
did.
like, and now you're trying to destroy.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. She'll be back. She'll be back. No, Tess, I missed that, babe.
I said, I really think Lori is somewhat like Letitia. You never get the truth. But also, again, I think that she's.
Oh, babe, you're very roboty.
I don't really think. Uh-oh. What about now?
You're okay. You're okay now.
Am I better?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that Lori would never tell us anything more than what she's already said. And I believe she has some real mental illness. I kind of think anybody who commits murder, especially on kids, has a level of mental illness. You know what I mean?
Yes.
How can you do that and not? Even
Right.
if it's just like, I don't know. But so part of me wonders, does she believe the shit she says?
You know what? It's hard. Yeah, that I would like to know that for real, for real. Like you can't get that answer from her because of course she's going to say, I believe it, right? But I wish
Right.
there was a way, like I wish we could hook her up to a lie detector and just see what her reaction is to that question. And Sleuth Investigate says, I had no idea that monster is back in Colorado until you ladies said it. Is she back in Denver? She is back in Denver, Sleuth Investigate, and we have her prison call.
Yep. And today we're going to try. No, I'll tell you guys if it works out, but I'll just say I'm going to try to get something else that will be very interesting because connected to us what we've already got. Well, fuck it. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to try to get the calls Jen, you already know this, but
yeah.
from the date where we put them out and after that to see what her little friend tells her is being said because they talk about YouTube a lot. Cannot wait to hear.
Me too. Me too.
Can you imagine? I'm doing a video.
I feel like if we hooked Lori up to a lie detector, that thing would just explode. Just
Probably
be done.
so. Start smoking and going all crazy.
Yes.
But no, I really think that I can't wait to hear. But I plan on doing a video, you guys, that will put together because I know a lot of people don't sit through the full live stream. Jen and I have done lives. Jen has the call on her channel right now, a call with Aunt Brenda where she talks about being arrested. And I got the police report and we did a live also talking about that. It's separate ones. So I want to do a video, just a real quick back to back on Brenda says, and then what the police say. Just like
that's
a quick
funny that you're doing that because I thought you guys let me know in the chat. What if I did a video on the best worst of Aunt B? Because seriously, the best of Aunt B is like the worst. So you know what I'm saying? I guess it's a matter of perspective. Just a little something, just to lighten the mood a little bit, just to see where Aunt B came from. So just something. But I'm going to wait for Allie to get back and then I'm going to end the live because I have been requested to come for a visit to my little chicky nuggy put pie Esquire, and I wanted to go and see her. So I need to do that. And I'll just wait for Allie to come back before I end it. But if you would not mind, would you please give your girl a thumbs up on the stream? And I really hope that you guys in the chat now and anybody listening on the replay find this informative. Could I have, I know it's maybe not as exciting as, oh my God, what have they done to Brian? Is this like they're holding his stuffed animal for ransom if he doesn't take a plea deal? Like, I know it's not as exciting as all of that, right? But the fact is, these things happen. Plea deals happen all the time. And yes, crocheting Bammy. I will be on tonight, you guys. Allie and I will be on tonight together, and we're going to go over Lori Vallow Daybell's interview with Nate Eaton last night. But I know, like, it's not as exciting to go down all the different conspiracy theories and the rabbit holes and all of that, and but the truth is, I feel like you guys want to hear what's typical and what really, like, the truth of things. And the truth of things is, I believe, in summary, that Brian waited. Was intentional. I do believe that Brian always intended to take a plea, or always intended to plead guilty. I do think that he did it intentionally. I think it was I think that he wanted to do it. I don't think he gives a rat's fat kneecap about the death penalty, because if he did, he would have pled a long time ago. I think this is a measure of control. I think this is his way of keeping control over the narrative, particularly if the reporter on the X Twitters is correct, and that Brian will not be made to testify to the details of his crimes. Then all what we will have is, at the end of the day, all that will end up happening at the end of the day is that we will be able to request all of the documents, but reading the documents like that versus having somebody testify, I do think they'll be impactful, but it's more impactful when there's testimony. Of course, the surviving roommates won't be testifying, and I just think that at the end of the day, it's all about control. I don't think he gives a rat's fat kneecap about avoiding the death penalty. I think he did it to be it's his only and last way of having control. Yes, Tess, I will be streaming the Bryan Kohberger hearing tomorrow. I will also be streaming the Stephen Stearns has a hearing tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. That is so I will be streaming that as well. And so I'm going to end it for now. I'll schedule the live for tonight in a second. So, keep it here, keep your notifications on. And I'll probably have to rely on Allie to share out the live for tonight, because you know how the tubes be, giving you one notification. So who knows if it'll go out or not, but I'll make a community post too. Also, I forgot about doing this yesterday, so I'll have to do it today. For those of you guys, it's not happening in my chat, but it is happening in other chats where they're changing your names. They haven't changed your name. What it is that YouTube has this system. There's the channel name, and then there's the handle. I will make a post. I will use pictures to show you guys exactly what you need to do to make your channel and your handle the same. Okay? Because everybody has a channel, just not everybody puts content on it. There you go. That's it. That's all. Smash that like button, and I will see you guys tonight. And we're going to go over ridiculous things that Lori Vallow Daybell says. All right? You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.